So let's turn it over to Bret, the king of Kush. This is the domineering man who spread chemical ideas on OG Kush around the world, has grow operations in more countries than any other human being. Can't even remember some of the houses he stacked with grow equipment, but when he finds it, he will turn the lights on. Okay?
I've grown in over 42 states. I've grown in 7 different countries. My largest grow is 33,000 plants. My friend, unfortunately, is in jail for that garden. His name is Eddie Lepp. A few people here may know who Eddie Lepp is and what he did for the movement in California. He spearheaded along with Dennis Perone, Jack Herrera, and gentlemen like that. But Eddie he definitely was a leader amongst us, and is unfortunately paying a price right now in jail. So if you ever get a chance or something, look him up and write him a letter. He'd probably really enjoy having a letter from someone out here. You know, he did a little bit of fighting for us, so maybe take some time and do a little bit of writing for him. So anyways, all right, I'm just going to open it up, and you guys just feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions and if you want to know. Okay, here we go.
Can we start with water?
We can start with water. So pH. So a lot with plants, a lot like with human beings, pH is a vital part of growing. Plants, if you're growing in a dirt medium, you want to have the pH between 6 and 7 pH. Most municipality waters, that if you have water, they're kind of harder, they're a higher pH. So generally speaking, you might find 8 and a little bit higher for, you know, some of the, let's say, LA, Chicago area, where some of the water is a little bit harder. When you get out towards the northern parts of California, for example, the water actually is pretty clean, and generally speaking, it's around 7 pH. So I hope will answer your question. Now, if we go into hydroponic, or if we go into taking clones, for an example, when taking a clone or growing hydroponic, the plant needs to have a lower pH in order to uptake the water to be able to eat. And that pH is generally between 5.4 and 5.8. When I take cuttings, I like to go about 5.4 to 5.6 for the first, maybe let's say, week until it roots. And once it roots, then you can go to 6 to 7. If you were going to run a hydroponic system, flood and drain, aeroponic, deep water culture, I would keep it between 5.6 and 5.8 for healthy plants. All right?
So I have a horticulturalist friend who insisted on doing it all organically. He had organic fertilized fish, this, that, and the other. And he felt it was very important to the essence of the final product that it was organic. Do you find it, you probably used everything there?
Well, I've used chemicals. I've used organic. I prefer to grow organic. I think organically it is better for the body. If you look at the plant itself, as far as it growing naturally in a natural environment, the plant itself naturally takes all the microbes, the beneficials, and the enzymes that are in the earth that came from when the earth was covered with a lot of water. If you dig down generally in clay bed areas, you're going to find that the soil actually is more active, and that's due to, over the years of it just, you know, building up. But the soil underneath is much more active. So to answer your question, organically, I feel it is the answer. And I also feel that it's important to grow. I like to grow in soil, but there's a lot of people like to grow cocoa, which is also a great organic medium. But when growing in cocoa, I like to really make caution. When you're growing with cocoa, if they haven't leached out the salts that are in the cocoa, you will have a higher acidic medium, and therefore your plants will tend to turn yellow. You won't know. You'll try to, you know, offset it, the soils. In this instance, it's cocoa, and it's very hard to get it equal and get it even. So make sure that the cocoa you're using has been leached of its salts.
Also mold. Last year I was in an operation and they were having a lot of problems with mold, maybe neglect, but how do you treat is that? So
mold, Northern California, Washington, Oregon, and some parts probably of Colorado, it's indigenous to the outside area. It just floats. The spores are floating around. So it's virtually everywhere we are in the northern states. Now, to get rid of it, there's a multitude of different applications. kind of an older school application that a lot of people use is you have a pH water that's higher than 9 with a little bit of baking soda, a teaspoon, in water, and then you can spray that as an application, and it will systemically over time take the powdery mold away. That's a cheap, quick way to fix it. Now, generally speaking, when you're in a more commercial or you have a larger grow area, you tend to have more commercial products, and those products consist of sulfurs or other non-chemical products. Sulfur is a pretty heavy-duty product. If you're not familiar with its uses and how to use it and apply it into your garden, I'd be very careful in recommending that to someone. There's other organic products that you can spray that they sell. There's a multitude of products that they actually sell right now that are fungicides and pesticides as well that fight molds. But at the end of the day, it's keeping really to combat it without using almost any of what I just described as repellents or different additives, if you will, to have a closed loop room, have the air coming and circulating from an inside area instead of coming from the outside, so you're not pulling the air from outside from the spores. And secondary, having a dehumidifier in your room running all the time, keeping the humidity between 30 and 50% humidity will decrease the condensation in your room, which then promotes the growth of powdery mildew.
Thank you.
All right? How about some more questions? No? How about I give you some answers then? Okay, so let's do this. When starting a grow, generally speaking, I find it's really easy to grow, for me at least, if you're a new beginner grower and you're trying to choose between hydroponics and aeroponics or dirt. I find dirt is extremely forgiving for your first time grow, and it's also very, you can fix your mistake extremely quick when you're in a dirt medium. When you're in a flood and drain or a hydroponic, it's immediate. It's, if you will, for the example of intravenously when you get sick and you have to take, different insulins and things like that, it's to your bloodstream. It's instant. Well, if you imagine now, I'm putting the food right to instantly, i.e. thinking the veins as roots, and you're adding water right to it, instantly it's sucking up. Instantly it's taking everything it is. So instantly you have a chance, if you overfed it, underfed it, pH is wrong, any of these different variables, you have probably a probable chance of not only losing your plants, but maybe creating a mold, as you talked about. So there's definitely ways. So for me, it's growing in dirt, and then it's finding a grow area. You have to make sure when you're growing and when you have a space that you can have, the easiest thing for me to describe or to explain to people is, when you're growing inside, the reason you grow inside is you're trying to duplicate Mother Nature. You're trying to duplicate the outside. And by duplicating the outside, you have to be able to put in air, light, humidity, and then also you have to add water. If you can't put those and you can't make those elements exist inside a building, your inside grow, you're going to have extreme problems with molds, pesticides, the height, the length of the plants, stretching of the plants, and at the end, you're not going to have the product that you saw in the magazines, or you saw your friend have, or you saw someone else have, because you weren't taking the time. Growing is a lot like raising a child, and I try to explain that to people a lot, that you have to nurture the plant. The love that you put into the plant, the love that you put into your child, it is the love that the child will put back out to you. If you think that you could just set the plant there and never pay attention to it and never love it and never go feel it, never touch it, it's a woman. Oh, I don't know what woman doesn't like to be touched. So you have to really to think of it as a sensual, loving thing. It's a woman, and it needs to be loved, it needs to be caressed, and it needs to be talked to. Because if you don't talk to the woman and you don't love her, then you're gonna have some problems. You're gonna have some problems. So the reality of it is I associate the plants as women. That's just the easiest way to assimilate for me when teaching people. So by knowing that, you have to spend time with it, you have to love it, and then you have to nurture it. And by nurturing it, I mean by training it. And training it, and not to say that we're training our women, but I'm just saying that by training the plant, you have the availability to maximize what it will put out. What you put into it is what you get out of it. And really with children, and that's why I like to use the analogy, is you can see the work that you put into a child, and at its, when it gets to a ripe age of 18 and it leaves the home, hopefully you have nurtured the child enough that you see the fruits of your labor, and i.e. when the plants reach its maturity and you get to receive the fruits of your labor.